July 8th, 1988. A Friday like any other. Over the backwaters of Kerala, Ashtamudi Lake shimmered under the warm morning sun. The people of Peruman village prepared for their day, unaware of the disaster that would unfold just after midday, a tragedy that would shake the nation and leave questions unanswered even decades later. This is the story of the Peruman train tragedy, a disaster steeped in mystery and marked by heroism, sorrow, and controversy. Train number 26, the Island Express, was an essential artery linking Bangalore to Tiruvananthapuram. With 14 coaches and hundreds of passengers on board, it had become a symbol of mobility for students, professionals, and families. That morning, it departed from Bangalore, running slightly behind schedule, but otherwise proceeding normally. By the time it reached Kerala, the passengers were settling into a familiar rhythm. The train was expected to cross the Peruman railway bridge over Ashtamudi Lake just after 1:10 p.m. At approximately 1:15 p.m., as the Island Express began crossing the Peruman bridge, a sudden violent jolt rocked the train. 10 of its 14 coaches derailed. 7 of them plunged into the backwaters below, while the others twisted across the bridge and embankment. Survivors recall a sharp thud, then screams, chaos, and silence. The derailment was so swift that many were trapped before they could react. The calm waters of Ashtamudi became a scene of devastation. Emergency response was slow. With the accident occurring in a remote area, local fishermen were the first to react. They dived into the lake without hesitation, pulling survivors and bodies from the wreckage. More than 107 people lost their lives. Over 200 were injured. Survivors spoke of windows shattering, water rushing in, and passengers crushed beneath seats and steel. The train had entered the bridge from the east, traveling at approximately 40 to 50 kilometers per hour. It was within speed limits, which made the incident all the more puzzling. There were no initial reports of brake failure, sabotage, or structural damage. What then caused the derailment? The official explanation came swiftly. The Commissioner of Railway Safety, CRS, concluded that a sudden tornado had struck the train as it entered the bridge. According to the report, the high-speed wind destabilized the carriages, causing them to derail. It was a highly unusual event, but not impossible. However, meteorological record from that day showed no strong evidence of such an atmospheric disturbance. No eyewitnesses from the area recalled sudden winds or a tornado. The sky was partly cloudy, but nothing indicated the presence of violent weather. Many questioned, could a tornado occur with such surgical precision, derailing a train without affecting the bridge or surroundings? The tornado theory raised eyebrows. It provided a neat conclusion, but lacked scientific backing. And as families grieved, critics called for deeper scrutiny. Several alternate theories emerged in the months following the accident. One focused on the condition of the tracks. Railway engineers noted that the Peruman Bridge, being old and exposed to environmental wear, could have had alignment issues. Improper leveling and poor maintenance might have caused the derailment when the train passed over a vulnerable section. Another theory pointed to a sudden lateral oscillation, known as hunting oscillation, that can occur when a train moves at particular speeds over slightly misaligned tracks. This phenomenon can cause the train to lurch sideways unexpectedly. Still another possibility centered on the wheels and suspension systems. If the train had defective wheel sets or improperly maintained bearings, even a minor shock on the bridge could result in derailment. One particularly controversial theory was human error. Some argued that the train might have accelerated prematurely while approaching the bridge. If the driver misjudged the gradient or underestimated the bridge's limitations, the resulting force could destabilize the train. Despite these theories, no single cause was proven definitively. The lack of black box technology in Indian trains at the time made precise reconstructions difficult. Investigators relied on survivor accounts, mechanical inspections, and the scene itself, much of which had already been disturbed by the time help arrived. Among the many stories of sorrow were also stories of survival and heroism. Local fishermen, like the late Sahadevan and his brother Rajan, who lived along the shore of Ashtamudi, were among the first to dive into the lake. Without equipment or official guidance, they pulled dozens to safety. One survivor, Ashok Betty Nelson, was a child then. He remembered being asleep when a crash happened. In the chaos, he was pulled from the water by a stranger, a man he never saw again. Doctors and nurses from nearby towns rushed to the scene, turning village schools into makeshift clinics. Boats carried survivors across the lake. Some injured passengers lay for hours waiting to be rescued. The lack of immediate emergency response exposed the state's ill-preparedness. The Peruman tragedy led to several changes in India's railway safety regulations. Though the tornado theory remained in the official record, internal reforms began behind the scenes. New emphasis was placed on track maintenance, bridge inspections, and crew training. The bridge itself was reinforced and repaired. For years after the incident, the word Peruman invoked dread. It became a symbol of negligence, but also a turning point for systemic introspection. Memorials were held annually, and the accident remains deeply embedded in Kerala's collective memory. Though no one was officially held accountable, the tragedy acted as a catalyst for change. The Peruman train tragedy found its way into Kerala's cultural fabric. It inspired newspaper columns, books, and films. Malayalam cinema depicted the event with subtle nods, often capturing the haunting aftermath more than the crash itself. In literature and oral history, the tragedy lives on, not as an isolated event, but as a reminder of fragility. It is retold not just to honor the dead, but to demand answers from those who govern our transport systems. Ashtamudi Lake is calm once again. The Peruman Bridge stands restored, its pillars bathed in the glow of the setting sun. But beneath the surface of this tranquil place, memories still stir. The events of July 8, 1988, remind us that tragedy can strike when we least expect it, and that every act of negligence can cost lives. The Peruman train tragedy endures, not only in history books, but in the hearts of those it touched. Thank you for watching. This was the story of the Peruman train disaster. If this documentary moved you, please like, share, and subscribe to explore more untold chapters of our shared path.